Welcome to Nice and Blunt. I'm Adam Riancho, and it's Saturday, week 15, time for the injury report. Going to give you a brief rundown of every single offensive position in fantasy football who is potentially going to miss, who's already been ruled out. Then we'll follow that up with defense and offensive line injuries, along with some weather updates, just so you have all the information heading in to week 15. So let us begin. We're going to start at the quarterback position, where in Washington, Jaden Daniels has been ruled out. He's not going to play. In hindsight, it looked like the wrong decision to start him last week. Mariota will be the guy, and probably for the rest of the year. I would assume Jaden Daniels does not come back. In New York for the Jets, both Tyrod Taylor and Justin Fields are both out. Neither are going to play, so they're looking to the third string quarterback, Brady Cook. And if anything, I would say the Jaguars defense is probably the biggest lock to be the number one play on the week. Las Vegas is not going to start Geno Smith. He's out this week, so Kenny Pickett gets a revenge game at the Eagles. I believe the Raiders will win. But in LA, the Chargers had a full practice for Justin Herbert this week. We knew he would be active. He is now off of the injury report. In Indianapolis, Daniel Jones was placed on IR following last week's game, and Phillip Rivers is the starter. The Seahawks defense probably are right behind the Jags at number 2, but maybe it works out. Maybe I'm wrong. Perhaps Rivers still has it in him to play well. At tight end, there are some injuries to speak of. In Washington, Zach Ertz also was placed on IR earlier this week. So that knee injury opens the door for Ben Sinnott. However, I'm not convinced he's actually above John Bates, but I've been waiting for this. I do have some playoff best ball teams with Ben Sinnott, and I'm hoping he does play well in Zach Ertz's absence. In Seattle, Elijah Arroyo was placed on IR with a knee injury as well, so it looks like A.J. Barner is a bit safer to trust. In Pittsburgh, Darnell Washington is questionable with a concussion. Limited Thursday and Friday, though. That is positive news. He's a game-time call, but if he's not cleared from the protocol, he will not play. Monitor his status. If he doesn't, I would say Jonnu Smith in a revenge game potentially has higher upside at tight end. In New York, the Jets are going to be without Mason Taylor. The rookie tight end has a neck injury and will not play. Maybe he's out for the year. In Detroit, Sam Laporta was already on IR, but this week Brock Wright made it official. He's also on IR as well. So I don't trust a Lions tight end. The starter, I think, is Anthony Ferkser, but even that is not guaranteed. In Dallas, Jake Ferguson is questionable with a calf injury, limited Wednesday and Friday, and that was sandwiched around a rest day on Thursday. He did not practice at all on Thursday, so I think he'll suit up. I would expect him to play. He is a game-time call, but the fact that he returned Friday, that's the main day I care about. So I think Ferguson will be fine. I'm expecting him to be available. In Cleveland, however, David Njoku has been ruled out. So last week barely contributed. Now it's wheels up for Harold Fannin. There is no competition for Harold Fannin. So I would be starting him, no doubt about it. And Njoku didn't practice at all this week. He may be out for the rest of the year. In Arizona, Elijah Higgins, the backup tight end to Trey McBride, is questionable with an illness. He did not practice on Friday, and you might be thinking, why does this matter? Well, it's yet another name that is out in Arizona. I'll mention it as we go forward. There are very few active pass catchers in Arizona. Speaking of which, at receiver, I brought this up in the receiver rankings video earlier today, so some of this is repeat information, but just to clarify, in Arizona, Marvin Harrison Jr. is out, so is Greg Dortch. He's on IR. And then backup receiver Xavier Weaver is out. Zay Jones has been on IR for several weeks now. So it's really just Trey McBride and Michael Wilson. There is really nobody else you would even consider beyond the running backs, of course, out of the backfield. In Baltimore, Rashad Bateman is questionable with an ankle injury. Did not practice at all on Friday. I don't think he's going to be available. I'm not expecting Bateman to play. In Chicago, Rome Odunze is expected to play. He was limited all week in practice. They are saying he'll be available. He is questionable, though. Make sure at game time they'll give you an active or inactive 90 minutes before kickoff. In Cincinnati, T. Higgins is out with a concussion. Felt like he should have exited last week's game earlier than he did. And in Cleveland, Cedric Tillman, also dealing with a concussion, still listed as questionable, but hasn't practiced. I would assume Cedric Tillman is out. So maybe Isaiah Bond is a little more tempting, but Jerry Jeudy might be that much more safe. And then in Dallas, CeeDee Lamb is active. He had a concussion last Thursday, but by Friday, he was full off the injury report. CeeDee Lamb will play Sunday night. In Denver, Pat Bryant is out with a hamstring injury, so that is positive news for Troy Franklin's outlook. Franklin looked like he lost his job to Pat Bryant since the bye week. In Jacksonville, Parker Washington has been listed as questionable, expected to play with a hip injury. Last week, he was out, and he was limited all week in practice. So I would assume Washington is available. In Kansas City, Hollywood Brown is not going to suit up. Dealing with a personal matter, he has been ruled out. So Xavier Worthy is a little more trustworthy this week. Maybe Tyquan Thornton or Juju Smith-Schuster, though, play spoiler to that boost in value. In LA, the Chargers might be without Quentin Johnston for this game. He was available in practice Wednesday and Thursday. But on Friday, dealing with a groin injury, he was downgraded to limited. So whenever that happens late in the week, it's a very bad sign, very unlikely that he's available. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I would kind of project that Quentin Johnston is not going to play. So perhaps Keenan Allen or Ladd McConkey look a bit safer, but that injury to Herbert really throws a wrench in the system. In LA for the Rams, Devontae Adams has been dealing with a hamstring injury since September and has not missed a game. While he barely practiced at all this week, missed Wednesday and Thursday, I'm expecting him to play. All of the reports indicate Adams should be fine. But they are getting Tutu Atwell back. He's been on IR for several weeks, and he is upgraded. He's off the IR, and he is questionable. He will play against Detroit. In Pittsburgh, Calvin Austin dealing with a calf injury. He cropped up on Friday. So just like Quentin Johnston, late week addition, not a good sign. I do not think Austin will be available, but he is a game time call. Perhaps Roman Wilson will get the bump in his absence. In San Francisco, Brandon Ayuk is out. We already knew that, but it looks like they are completely burning the bridge. He's been downgraded to the reserve practice squad, and there is no chance he will ever play again for the Niners. I would be shocked if they figured this out in the offseason. But in Washington, Deebo Samuel, who left the Niners, questionable with an illness, didn't practice on Friday, but I would assume is good to go. I doubt he misses with just an illness, but got to make sure. If not, Terry McLaurin would be that much better. And then maybe Ben Sinnott could also do some damage. But at running back, I also brought up some injuries earlier this week. Most of these are confirmed, but let's remind you all the players on the injury list. In Arizona, Trey Benson is remaining on IR. He's not coming back. However, they might be getting Emari DeMercado back. He was limited all week in practice, but that was the case last week, and he did not play either. So he's a game time call. Maybe he's available, but even if he is, I wouldn't care about starting a Cardinals running back. In Cleveland, Jerome Ford was placed on IR, and Dylan Sampson is out, not going to play. So that means Quinshon Judkins might be getting 30 touches. That game is going to be very cold against the Bears. Not the best matchup, but Raheem Sanders is his backup, and that's definitely not a player we care about. So Quinshon Judkins feels like a very safe play this week. And in Green Bay, Josh Jacobs is questionable with a knee injury, and really, I don't know what's going to happen with Jacobs. I would assume he plays because he was at least limited on Friday, but he didn't practice at all Wednesday or Thursday. So given his veteran status, given what he means to the team, and this being a very important game, I assume he's available, but if he doesn't get a full workload, it wouldn't shock me at all. Emmanuel Wilson was dealing with an illness today, so on Saturday it did crop up on the injury report. I doubt it matters, though. I'm expecting Emmanuel Wilson to play. He was full in practice all week long. So Wilson gets a slight boost in value. Jacobs probably still scores a touchdown, though, and is still worth starting. Marshawn Lloyd, the backup, did start practicing, though, but did get downgraded later in the week. He was limited Wednesday and Thursday, but in true Marshawn Lloyd fashion, by Friday, he had another injury, a hamstring cropped up, and he didn't practice at all, and he is remaining on IR. Marshawn Lloyd is not going to play. Surprise, surprise. He is not ready to go. In Houston, Nick Chubb, questionable, didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. However, on Friday, he was limited. He has a rib injury. I doubt he'll see an insane amount of volume, but this matchup is elite against Arizona. So that's interesting. I only trust Woody Marks, though. In Miami, Devon Achane is questionable with a rib injury, limited all week in practice with a non-contact jersey, but everything I've read says that Mike McDaniel is expecting him to play. So ideally, given the game is on Monday night, you would have either Jalen Wright or at least Ollie Gordon handcuffed to Achane, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal if you don't. It looks likely that Achane will play. So perhaps he aggravates it mid-game, but at least he's going to start it. And if that's the case, you have to keep Achane in your lineup. He's a top 5 running back, if active. In Minnesota, Aaron Jones is active as well. He was limited earlier in the week with a shoulder injury, but he is good to go. He will play. In New Orleans, not a shocker at all. Alvin Kamara didn't practice again and has been ruled out against Carolina. Devin Neal is active. He missed Wednesday's practice, but he's good to go in this divisional matchup. In San Francisco, Christian McCaffrey unfortunately cropped up on the injury report on Saturday. This is not good news at all. Dealing with a back injury full Wednesday and Friday, but limited on Thursday with an illness. And now the back injury is a brand new situation. So I want to handcuff Christian McCaffrey to Brian Robinson Jr. If you haven't, then you're taking a big risk. However, if I had to guess, I think McCaffrey will play. It's not a guarantee. They can probably win easily without him. So if they're up big, I could easily see Robinson get a big workload in the second half. I would expect some garbage time. McCaffrey might take a seat early in this one. So monitor the status. You got to make sure it's an afternoon game. So I hope you have a backup. Ideally, it's Brian Robinson Jr. Washington, they have Chris Rodriguez on the injury report. The commander is dealing with a groin injury. Didn't practice Wednesday, but then on Thursday, Friday, he was limited. I'm expecting Rodriguez to be active. The matchup is elite. I think Rodriguez will score a touchdown against the Giants. So really, Christian McCaffrey is kind of the big news at running back. Otherwise, it's mostly what I anticipated, and I hope Brian Robinson Jr. is available if you need him. So pick him up right now. That's a key piece that may help you win, even if you don't have CMC. I would love to at least roster Robinson in that scenario. So an elite handcuff might be available. Check the wire. And now we'll move on to the offensive line and defensive injuries. We're going to start in Washington and go in reverse alphabetical order for this one. The Commanders' defensive end, Drake Jackson, is out, along with their cornerback, Jonathan Jones. He's out as well. In Tennessee, left tackle Dan Moore Jr. is questionable, along with center Lloyd Cushenberry. He's also questionable, and right guard Kevin Zeitler, questionable as well. On defense, their cornerback, Jalen Armour Davis, is out yet again. And then at defensive end, CJ Ravenel is questionable also. In Seattle, center Jalen Sundell is questionable. I believe this is the second week in a row. He's dealt with some injuries this year. In San Francisco, linebacker Tatum Bethune has been ruled out. However, defensive end Sam Okwayi Nonu is out as well. Linebacker Nick Martin is also out, and the Niners seem to piece it together despite all the injuries. In Pittsburgh, the Steelers have a lot of injured options. We have offensive tackle Calvin Anderson going on IR earlier in the week, and left tackle Andrus Peat is questionable. And then on defense, linebacker TJ Watt has been ruled out. So perhaps Achane's going to play better. Maybe Tua is not going to shit the bed, but the snow still might help their defense. But that's not it. Cornerback James Pierre is also questionable, along with defensive end Cameron Hayward. He might not play, along with nose tackle Keanu Benton, he's questionable also, and defensive end Derek Harmon, who has missed the last 2 games, has been upgraded to questionable. He might be coming back to the lineup. In Philadelphia, right tackle Lane Johnson is out. Jalen Hurts' record is really terrible when he doesn't play. And defensive end Jalen Carter also ruled out. So I really like Ashton Genty. We've seen running backs play well whenever the Eagles don't have Jalen Carter. The Jets are without linebacker Kiko Mauigoa. He is out for this game. In New York for the Giants, defensive end Raheem Nunez-Roches is out, along with nose tackle Dexter Lawrence. He is questionable. But linebackers Kayvon Thibodeau, he's been ruled out, and linebacker Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is questionable as well. In New Orleans, strong safety Justin Reed is questionable. In New England, linebacker Robert Spillane is questionable. In Minnesota, left tackle Christian Darrisaw might not play. He's questionable as well. And in Miami, they have center Aaron Brewer listed as questionable, along with cornerback Jack Jones on defense, also questionable. And the nickel cornerback Rasul Douglas is questionable as well. Douglas has been banged up all year. In LA for the Chargers, free safety Elijah Molden is doubtful. He's a good player. At linebacker, Troy Dye is also questionable himself. And then on the offensive line, it's been depleted all season. It gets banged up yet again. Offensive tackle Trey Pipkins is doubtful as well. But it seems like it can't get worse with what they've got. Maybe it might get better without Trey Pipkins. But in Las Vegas, left tackle Colton Miller was placed on IR. Their right guard Jordan Meredith is questionable. So maybe my upgrade to Genty might not work out. But their O-line has been trash all year. I kind of feel like that's another one that can't get worse than it already is. On defense for Vegas, strong safety Jeremy Chin is questionable as well. In Kansas City, their O-line is really banged up. We know that left tackle Josh Simmons was placed on IR. I don't think he's coming back maybe until the playoffs, but unlikely this season. But on the right side of the O-line, guard Trey Smith is out yet again. That's the second game he's going to miss. And then right tackle Jawan Taylor is out as well. On defense, cornerback Trent McDuffie is a game-time decision. He's questionable. I do not think he's going to play. In Jacksonville, left tackle Walter Little is questionable as well. And in Indianapolis, cornerback Sauce Gardner is out, along with his fellow teammate cornerback Charvarius Ward. He's been placed on IR. Yet another concussion this season. Very bad news with Charvarius Ward. On the offensive line, tackle Braden Smith was also placed on IR. In Houston, EJ Speed, I believe the linebacker, is questionable for this matchup. And then in Detroit, left tackle Taylor Decker is questionable as well, along with left guard Coyote Awosika. He is questionable on top of that. Free safety Kirby Joseph is out yet again. He's missed a lot of time this season. And then in Denver, right tackle Mike McGlinchey is questionable as well. In Dallas, they're without left tackle Tyler Guyton. He's been ruled out. And then in Cleveland, they are missing several offensive linemen. Right tackle Jack Conklin has been ruled out. Same with right guard Wyatt Teller. The right side is full of backups. And then on the left side, left guard Joel Bitonio is a game time decision. He's questionable for this game. I would assume he suits up. But their guard, Zach Zinter, was ruled out earlier this week. So all across the board, the Browns O-line is depleted. So despite a bump in volume for Quinshon Judkins, it's possible his efficiency will be in the tank in this game. On defense, defensive tackle Mason Graham might be coming back. He's missed some time, but is upgraded to questionable. He's a game time decision. However, in the secondary, Denzel Ward, their top corner, is out. Maybe Roma Dunze does benefit with that matchup. In Carolina for the Panthers, defensive end Tershawn Wharton is questionable. And then in Buffalo, linebacker Terrell Bernard also questionable, along with cornerback Christian Benford. He's also a game time decision. Last team to mention is Arizona, where on top of all of their offensive playmaker injuries, their O-line is also depleted. Left tackle Paris Johnson is out, former first round pick, not going to play. And then the left guard Evan Brown also out. And then a right guard, Will Hernandez, was placed on IR last week. So already the Cardinals can't run the ball at all. It's going to be even worse against Houston. I have no desire to start a Cardinals running back. On defense, Walter Nolan, their first round pick, is questionable. Might play, might not. And then in the secondary, strong safety Jalen Thompson has been ruled out. And then their second best cornerback, Max Melton, is also out for this game. So those are all of the O-line and defensive injuries. Last thing to mention are the weather updates. So let's go to Chicago, where on Sunday it's going to be 11 degrees and sunny, 10-mile-per-hour winds. The frigid temperature, I don't think is that big of a deal, but if there's ever a tendency I've noticed in these types of games, sometimes they lean on the run a little bit more. The effort it takes to tackle the running back over and over again seems to wear down the opposing defense. So maybe I would upgrade Swift and Monungai a little bit. Quinshon Judkins also might benefit. In Cincinnati, 9-degree temperature. This is the coldest game of the week. And maybe Derek Yeti is going to make an appearance. Derrick Henry sometimes has a massive advantage in these types of games, but perhaps with no T. Higgins, you still just trust all the Bengals playmakers. In Kansas City, this game will be cold as well, but not as frigid. 23 degrees, though, is a big deal. For the LA Chargers, that might bode well. That could be a big advantage for the Chiefs, but I don't think it's the end of the world. It'll be sunny. It's not like it's snowing. There is no wind to worry about either. Only 2 miles per hour is the forecast. So the Chiefs maybe get a slight advantage, but I'm still picking the Chargers to win. And then in New England, this will be a fun snow game, 31 degrees with a 20% chance of snow all throughout the game. I believe it will be continuously snowing in this one. The wind is only 7 miles per hour, so I want to give the advantage to the home team, but every time I watch the Bills in a snow game, it seems like they are just destined to win. So I know it's on the road. I know the Patriots can handle the snow, but I still think the Bills will win. In New York, the Giants are hosting the Commanders, and it'll be 29 degrees and sunny. At least it's not snowing in that matchup, but it's also kind of cold. 10 miles per hour. Wind is not that big of a factor. In Philadelphia, there is some light snow expected, a 15% chance. The temperature will be 26 degrees, and the wind is at 11 miles per hour. This is the windiest game of the week, and it's not that big of a deal at all. In Jacksonville, pretty ideal circumstances, 67 degrees, sunny in Florida, and 11 miles per hour winds. Perfect climate temperature for the Jaguars hosting the Jets. In Denver, it's also pretty ideal, 58 degrees and sunny, literally no wind at all, projected for 0 miles per hour. In San Francisco, there's also no wind at all, also a 0 mile per hour wind forecast, and it's pretty much identical to Denver, 56 degrees and sunny. So in both of those games, if players shit the bed, at least weather is not an excuse. And then in Seattle, it'll be 55 degrees and cloudy with a 10% chance of rain. Apparently, there's been a lot of rain in Seattle this week, so it might be still downpouring by kickoff. Sometimes the weather forecast, even the day before, is not totally accurate, but I do expect a little bit of rain in this game. However, last game of the week on Monday night in Pittsburgh, expect some snow. 20-degree forecast, 20% chance of snowfall, and a 6 mile per hour wind in this matchup. So we have seen Tua really crumble in the wind. Last week, it wasn't as cold as I thought it would be, and he did play well, but that was against the Jets. The Steelers are missing a lot of pieces, but I still think they have an advantage against Tua in the cold. So that's it for all of the updates in terms of injured players and weather. Last thing to mention before I sign out is my updated picks against the spread. These are my picks straight up. I'm not going to change a single thing. I'm sticking with all of my upsets. I lucked out with the Falcons last night. I was worried. I thought London would play when I made that pick, but I wasn't going to swap it just because of hindsight. So I was ready to take the L. I thought the Bucks would probably get the win with Evans back. However, the Falcons did figure it out. Kirk Cousins really has their number, but I'm sticking with everything I've predicted on Sunday and Monday. I'm not changing a thing. However, against the spread, we're sticking with the same picks. However, 2 of those lines have gotten a little more advantageous for my position. The Chargers line back on Monday was the Chiefs -4.5. Now they're 5.5 point favorites, and I'm still picking the Chargers to win straight up. So let's make it a little easier. If I'm wrong, that extra point does help me a little bit. It's probably irrelevant. That's a dead number in the first place, but I will take the dog, the Chargers, now getting 5.5. In Green Bay, I predicted they would cover a 2.5 point spread, and now the number is down to 1.5. So I kind of understand why the public would have put more money on the Broncos getting points. This game ultimately felt like a pick'em, and now I'm happy to get 1 extra point. -1.5 is the line I'll take, and we get slightly better odds for the Packers and Chargers to cover. But otherwise, I'm sticking with the rest. We covered with the Falcons on Thursday. The line has gotten tougher for Seattle, so -12.5 is what I took on Monday. And then the Raiders, it seems like the public at least liked the number at 12.5. That line is now down to 11.5. So we got some good numbers on those heavy point spreads. And then we also got the best number on Houston. That line is now 10.5. So those are my picks against the spread: the Chargers, the Falcons, the Seahawks, the Raiders, the Texans, and the Packers. I believe we'll cover this week. So that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Here you can find my running back and receiver rankings. And if you're watching in the morning, you should probably find my quarterback rankings posted right here. But tonight they have yet to be posted. So if you're still interested in those, ring the notification bell so you don't miss out. Subscribe to the channel for all of my content. Like the video on your way out. If you made it this far, I hope you get the win this week and advance in the playoffs. I'm Adam Riancho, and thank you so much for watching. Nice and blunt.